We'll get the meeting started. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll take the roll call.
Jeff?
Yes?
Laurel? Laurel?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Kelsey?
Yes.
Vern?
He's there.
Vern?
Is he muted?
I think so. I can see him. Vern?
He must be muted.
Hey, Vern, are you here?
Hang on. Don?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Craig? And we'll go back to Vern.
Well, we can see him, so he's
Yeah.
here.
Wonder if he can hear us.
We have a quorum.
Yep, okay.
He can't hear us.
Approval of the agenda. Is there any other business that we need to add, or otherwise I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda? Is
So moved.
you have a second?
Second.
Then second,
Kelsey.
roll call?
Okay. Jeff?
Yes?
Laurel?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Vern? I can see him though. Don?
Yes.
Okay. Scott?
Yes.
Craig? Okay. Okay, we have approval of the agenda.
Okay. Then we had received the minutes of the prior meeting. Any additions or questions on that? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion? We have a second?
Second, Laurel.
Laurel seconded. Roll call?
For approval of the minutes, Jeff?
Yes?
Laurel?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Vern? Don?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Craig? Okay, we have, the minutes are approved.
Okay. Then we'll jump into the public hearings. First one, Steve and Lynette Tonneson, variance for front yard setback for accessory structure.
I'll speak, I think you can all hear me. Okay, if not, let me know. This application is from Stephen and Lynette Thompson. They're at 1304 Renby Drive. This property is currently zoned R1. This is the application that was submitted by the applicants. They're asking for a variance to be 18 feet from the property line. This is also going to be in the front yard, which I'll get into in a little bit here. But it'll be 18 feet from the right-of-way line. They're located in Lot 1, Block 1 of Woodridge Estates. And these were the criteria questions the applicant filled out that you saw in your packets. Their answers to our questions, our findings, or our findings questions. They did provide 2 letters of support as well, which I will get into. These are some other items that the applicant submitted. Some pictures of kind of the property. This structure here is what would be replaced. So this is the location of the property here, on the fur, 1 and Renby. Or you can do so this is again the shed that you saw earlier in the picture. So the application is to remove this existing shed, which is 16 by 20, and replace it with a 26 by 28 shed. That shows what look like from an interior. Again, I'll go through this a little bit, just because I know this is part of your packet. It kind of gives you an idea of the side garage attached to the home, county road and the berm that goes between the county road and the property along with the trees. This shows the fence along, again, if you're standing on County Road 1 or further looking at the property. These are two letters of support that were sent in from the neighbors. This is from Jason Morris, his wife Nikki at 1306 Brendy. They wrote they have been a wonderful addition to the neighborhood, and they have no problems. They're in full support of the proposal to build a shed. And then saying this is from Chris and Trina here. They also said they are not concerned with location, height, or appearance of the garage. They are at 406 Sterling Fergus Drive. Again, this is variance to construct a 28 by 26 accessory garage within the front yard, which is the reason why we're here. They're asking 18 feet from the road right away instead of the required 40 feet. The reason why this is a 40-foot setback is because this is a county road. Otherwise, it would normally be a 30-foot setback. We received the application on the 17th. The notice was put in the paper on the 12th. The notice was mailed to the neighbors on the 15th. We are here tonight. Section 154.017B1 talks about the criteria for variances. Section 031 is our R1 zoning district standards. It talks about front yards. Again, 30 feet for our standard roads, 40 feet for anything that would be adopted on a thoroughfare plan, as in this, the County Road 1. And then when we have a lot located on 2 or more streets, there should be a front yard on each side on a corner lot, and no accessory building shall project in the required front yard. And then again, in our accessory building standards, we state that no detached accessory building shall be located in the required front or side yard. So on this picture, do my best here to try to give a visual example of why we're here. The area in blue would be a front yard, right? This is 40 feet out from the county road right of way. This area in blue would be the 30 feet from the city road, Grundy over here. Red would be side yard, and then yellow would be the rear yard. So the yellow area would be the essentially the area we'd be looking to have an accessory structure in our rear yard. You see this existing structure is kind of mostly already in the front yard and partially in the rear yard. It is in the rear 1/3 though. If you look at it from, obviously this is the rear property line. We want the structure behind the structure and the rear yard in the rear 1/3. So it meets all of those criteria, but it is in a quote unquote front yard due to it being a corner lot. In that if it was a standard 30-foot setback, we'd be very close. The structure would be just barely in it, but here we go. There is about a 75-foot right-of-way on this county road. You can see there's a very large right-of-way that's, there's a berm. You can kind of tell on here, some of the pictures are provided as well, along with numerous fallen trees in between the road and the where it should. So here are some proposed findings, again, that you've seen that provided for you. If you choose to use, if you don't agree with something, then that would be a reason to look at potentially denying or amending or attaching a condition if you feel it's not met or could be met with conditions. I didn't provide any recommended conditions on this. At this point, I didn't have anything. So again, you have an option to approve based on findings. You have an option to deny based on, again, some findings that you would support one of those 6 questions. Or we can obviously table this if there needs to be more information in order to make your decision.
Okay, is there, before we open up the public hearing, is there any specific questions for Darren?
Is the intent of that 40-foot setback for future road enlargements, so in case of going to a 4-lane or?
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of would be, yeah, having a larger setback would be for potential growth of the road, being it's obviously a county road in this instance, but a major thoroughfare in the city. You do see there already is quite a large area in that the right of way is 75 feet already. But yeah, I mean, utilities.
Go ahead. Go ahead. When I drove out there, it looks like there's already going to be other things that are encroaching on that 40 feet too, along County Road 1, that would become an issue. You know what I mean? Like, I drove out there and it just seemed to me like there are other things that are probably in that right of way already.
So you will see things like fencing, obviously on the neighboring lot.
Yeah, well, fencing, yes.
Yep, you can see, you know, we don't have a standard setback for fencing, so someone could fence in their, in this instance, rear yard entirely with that, and there's really nothing wrong with that for our code, but our sheds do have setbacks. So you will see things like, you know, a fence being built closer to the road than.
Are there any safety considerations that would be considered in that because of speed variances, that there, obviously on a county road, there's going to be a higher speed limit, and so they want to increase setback for safety situation, or is that part of that?
All of those things, yes, would be a reason why you might have a higher setback than, say, your standard, 30 feet versus 40. Basically, the roads identified as our major thoroughfares have been identified to have a 40-foot setback. Otherwise, our standard setback in every other zone is 30 feet. So those have been identified as just roads that have an increased setback. Why as to how and what reasons? Again, future growth, obviously there are major thoroughfares, safety, snow, plowing, utility expansion, all of those things can play into why you might want more setback than just the 30 feet.
Scott, do you have something?
Yeah, was there a variance when they built that shed originally?
I could not find one.
And the other, so what I think happened, if you look down the road further, 2519 and 2515 Freiburg Avenue, the houses that are built there are, like within 10 feet of the right of way. And I might be wrong on this, but when they redid the road, they widened out everything, so everything was built in place probably right in the first place until they come through and redid the road.
Yeah, it's very possible the county could have purchased more right away.
Right.
They rebuilt it at some point, and thus, yeah, all these structures.
If you go even go further to the east, it really comes close to their garages on their house itself, right there, right, those two.
That's exactly what I was referring to,
Yep,
too. I
right
wasn't
there.
referring to fencing,
Yep.
I was referring
No,
to buildings.
Right where you're at now, Darren, right there, that one, and then the one to the west of it. I mean, they're right next to them, within, I think it's like, if you do it, like 8 feet or something like that. So I just wanted to know if there was a variance before is what the biggest thing
No,
is.
I could not find one. I said that there also is over at Power here too. Yeah, that would certainly explain why you would see some existing structures closer, and that you wouldn't saw variance for the original structure back. Originally would have been, if the right-of-way line would have been right here, or if it was, instead of 75, it was only, say, 60 feet, or 6 feet, or 50 feet wide. Of course, this probably would have met that setback.
Right.
Now that that's changed, or if that got wider at some point in time, the county widened that road. If that did happen, that would explain why.
Okay,
Well, in looking at that property with the berm that's there and the trees that are there, and coming off of Brenbay, I believe that's Brenbay there, there's really no obstruction of any view down the highway, because you're coming over a knoll there, or a little bit of a hill coming from the east also. And personally, in looking at it, I can't see where adding 6 feet out on that is going to really cause any type of problem.
Okay, thanks, Vern. I think what we'll do is we'll open up the public hearing.
Or I should say, yeah, the applicant is here.
So, Steve, if you want to, do you have anything you would like to add?
I guess if you have any questions of me, I'd be fine. When we went through the application, we were surprised that we needed a variance and, where we did, and that's fine, so we're just going through the steps now, but.
Say, before, you want to come up to the mic
Oh,
so
sure,
everybody
yeah.
can hear you?
Well, thank you for letting me be here tonight, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be on this committee. When we went to get the building permit for the garage, we were surprised that we need a variance because just because of the location of it and stuff, but we learned more about it, understand why, and so that's why we're here. So visiting with Darren, I guess I don't really know where else we could probably put this because of how it was built when we bought it, and it was built in 1996, or I believe it was, and we just bought it 4.5 years ago. We'd like to make a little bigger garage. We got another business car I'd like to park in there. We got some other stuff. Biggest trick, and you probably saw in the packet, is that the actual the garage itself, the big garage door, goes out to the backyard. It doesn't even go out to the driveway, so it makes it really awkward. So for snow blowing, I have a 3-stall garage, but the one stall closest to the shed is actually, there's an entryway built into it, so it only barely fits the garden tractor, and that's it. So it's basically a 2-stall garage. So if I don't use that one there, I'd have to kind of snowball my yard to get out to my driveway to use it. So it'd be nice to have that access. I could do it that way, and so that's the reason for the request. And so I guess anything else or any questions you have of me or anything, I'd be glad to answer.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Is there any questions for Steve? If not, thank you.
If not, thank you for your consideration.
Yes,
I do
thank
appreciate
you.
it very much. Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing, and we'll,
We should offer it up for anyone. There is somebody on the phone. I don't know if
is there somebody that would like to,
I'm not sure if they're here.
oh, if there's anybody on the phone that would like to speak? Okay. If not, is there anybody, Darren?
Wasn't here, so.
Okay. If not, nobody on the phone is ready to speak, then we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
I'll make a motion, this is Laurel, to approve the request.
Okay, we have a motion to
This
approve.
is
Do we have a
Kelsey, I'll second.
Kelsey seconded. Roll call.
Oh, discussion.
Oh, any discussion?
Is that
I didn't-
based off of the findings that were
Th-
proposed?
This would be off the findings that you, yes.
Correct, and I guess I'd like to just commend the city staff, especially for looking at these things that are outside of what our zoning allows for, because I think it's important for the city to work with these property owners to be able to improve their property. So I think this is a good signal to the community that we're willing to work with property owners outside of the box.
Thanks, Laurel. Any other discussion?
The other question that I would have is that, and I'm sorry I didn't have my volume turned on here at first, but maybe it was discussed. This is light construction. It's not a metal pole shed that's going in there. And it's also restricted to the height of 19 feet, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it's a light property, like matching the existing building?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, Jill, could you take roll call? Oh, one more.
I guess I'd like to speak in favor of it from a perspective of if we didn't already have at least 2 homes farther to the east, as we saw that set a precedent of where that any future expansion of that roadway is already limited by 2 existing dwellings. I would say that we should leave the setback as it is to give the city the most opportunity to expand in the future, but it's already set. To expand any farther to the north, of that roadway, you'd have to remove at least 2 garages that are already in there. So,
And I'll go along with what Don said, but also there's more than 2. If you go down the road further on the south side, there's 2 homes that are even closer yet. Dr. Ham's house is right right on it. And so I believe when they built all them, that road right away was a lot narrower. So I think it's something we need this rule to kind of help us get through it. So
Right.
I'm going to go in favor of it too.
Okay, very good. I think we're ready for a roll call.
Okay, Jeff,
Yes?
Laurel,
Yes.
Kelsey,
Yes.
Vern,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Craig. Motion carries.
Yes.
Mayor's got to go.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for stopping in. Good luck on the project.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll turn it over to the mayor.
So, can you pull up the agenda, Darren?
Yep.
Yes, thanks for moving the agenda around. I have to get a kid to hockey by 5:30, so
By 6:30, I hope.
I think you're going to be a little
I
late.
think I'm going to be a little late. Just wanted to introduce a couple items tonight. Had a really good conversation with two of the members of the Planning Commission, Don and Scott, just about how the Planning Commission, making sure the Planning Commission, now that we've restructured it with the zoning and the Planning Commission together, making sure that's working, but then also just making sure that the Planning Commission has the information from the city that they need to make the decisions and the procedures and its procedures in place. And so I don't necessarily I'm not suggesting to have and then the other thing is training. We just wanted to have Andrew talk about training a little bit. Not intending to have the conversation tonight, but I just, after having that good conversation with them and talking through some of the possible things that the city and the city council could do, just wanted to, I think the proper way to do it would be to come back to the Planning Commission and ask you guys to put this on a future agenda as a discussion item, so everyone can be prepared for it, and then you guys can get any information you need from city staff to have that discussion. I think the point was made that if having a strategic vision about how these developments, when they come to the Planning Commission, that you can check against, so that the City Council and the Planning Commission are on the same page. So that was kind of the discussion as far as that. And I was, I would suggest you guys have that conversation, and if you have a recommendation, if you could make that to the City Council by the end of the year, I think then we can plan for 2021 and make sure that we're on the same page. And also also want to look at these, just as we restructured, the Port Authority has some of the same, I've heard some of the same concerns, not concerns, just some of the same thoughts as the Planning Commission members that I've spoken to. So I think we're all on the same page, but just getting that a common vision, if you will, that everyone can be working off of the same vision for the city. So I appreciate Scott and Don bringing that forward. And if anyone has any questions of me, happy to answer. But otherwise, Andrew, do you want to just talk about what training opportunities? We just want to basically make sure that you guys have everything you need to do the job, and we're all on the same page. So thanks for all serving on the Planning Commission. And if you have any questions, happy to answer. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
You go to hockey.
All right.
I'll answer their questions. No, thank
Pick
you.
on you.
Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, thanks. I'll echo what the mayor said. It was good to have the outreach from Don and Scott to hear that things, could be more clear, that we could provide clarity to this group and to other groups about what they could, or will be doing as we go forward. And I think the mayor is exactly right. We'd love to hear guidance and feedback from this group as to what that might look like. And he also mentioned the Port Authority. This exact conversation started the other day at the Port Authority meeting, where they're looking for bigger guidance or this bigger vision of the community, and how do we direct and guide the work they're doing to fit within that vision, and how do we give you guys the tools and resources to be successful working within that bigger city vision that's blessed by the community and by the city council. Because right now you're considering each and every application that comes forward as a standalone and on its own merits, and we can give you more tools, I think, to be successful if we're able to look at this more comprehensively and holistically. So with that being said, I don't know if Darren's talked to any of you about training opportunities. I know some of you have done some of that in the past, but hearing from folks that there may be questions about processes or maybe questions about roles makes me really want to provide opportunities. Ironically, Darren reached out to me about 3 weeks ago, identifying a training opportunity for all of you. And because we're in this new age of COVID, of course, it's virtual. So, I mean, that's good and bad, of course. But we did look at the budgets, and there's room in the budget to be able to compensate or to pay for the training. And if folks on this board are interested in doing that, I think that that's something we should consider and look at. It would be certainly something we could justify, and I would hope would be valuable to all of you. So, Darren, can you mention anything more about that, or do you want to talk about that?
So this is, again, like Andrew mentioned, a virtual training. It is on Monday, October 12th to Tuesday, October 13th. Of course, it's during the day. I do have, day one is just an afternoon, and day two is kind of a all-day item. It's all virtual, but it's broken out into, like it is a regular meeting with breakout sessions, and you can kind of sign up for different things you want to watch. Basically what I would say is, October 12th and 13th, you can do one day or both days. I would say to reach out to either Claire or I if you've got interest in that, and we can send you a link to maybe review, some of these things, subdivisions 101, comp plan implementation, the little basics of planning and zoning, the basics of planning and zoning, planning elements 101, those are kind of the items that are on here. So if it's something you are interested in, again, just let Claire or I know, and we can look at setting up people here.
Andrew, was that something like we went to a few years ago, I think in Little Falls or wherever it was?
Yeah, it is.
Similar to that?
It's similar, I think. At least it's through that GTS, the same
Okay.
group, but it's probably, certainly a new presenter because that gal's moved on and would be new material. Is it possible for folks to watch it on demand if those dates don't work?
I believe so. I have to look again, but yes, I do believe we paid for it. You can watch it one time. I think they record them, so you can watch it some other time. I'll have to look at their website again to confirm that. So like I said, if you have interest, and if those dates don't work, yeah, we can make sure we can still see if we can get that signed up.
We just call you and let you know if we're interested, or could I tell you now, or?
Yeah.
I'd love to do it. I can't the specific date, so I would be one that needs to do it later, but I definitely would like to do that.
And I would encourage as many of you as possible to do it. Cost isn't a consideration in this particular instance, and I think it's very valuable. One last thing I would say is as we met a few weeks ago, which was very helpful for me, and I appreciate the feedback, I realized we haven't really done much in terms of education or even checking in on you guys since probably the orientation that Ryan Vietlock did now almost 2 years ago. So for that, I apologize. I'm glad that you guys came to us and had those concerns. And, like I mentioned, we want to give you the resources to be successful and do your jobs effectively. You guys put in a lot of time. You guys have probably more messy issues than the city council does to deal with. And
That's for
you guys
sure.
aren't compensated to do it. So
You're just so good at working them out, though.
you guys are good. So I do want to thank all of you. The mayor mentioned it, but I'll just reiterate, I appreciate your guys' time and commitment to doing this and the effort that you put in. This is an important job for the city, and it really does direct and guide the future development of the city. So let's keep having the conversations. In the meantime, let Darren or Clara know if you're interested, and look forward to future discussions.
I'd just like to
Thanks.
go in on that. When we I'm done with you, Andrew. You can.
Thanks, Andrew.
I think it's just be good for us also to look at, if we do this seminar, I too will be gone that weekend, or those 2 days, but I'll want to do it afterwards. But I think when we get rid of this COVID thing, we can all sit in the same room and have this back and forth a little bit, because I don't know if we're going to change it. Are we changing next year? Is there anybody going off do anybody know that? Andrew?
Yes.
It's a 2-year term, right?
Right, I think it is.
So that would be,
Yeah, there are terms that are up at the end of the year. And if, depending on who's sitting in the mayor's seat, that's who would determine
Okay.
or make the recommendations to the city council. So there is a possibility that the group looks different. And frankly, if the mayor wanted to, he could change the whole thing.
And that's it. But I would like to see us make sure that whoever comes in and sits in our seats goes through with this training. And I mean, because it's hard when you sit here and you know, I have experience of being on the council, nobody, so I kind of understand how things work better than, not everybody else, but I mean, and so it makes it hard for me to sit here and we just need to have an understanding. It's not that they're doing wrong, it's just that they don't understand it. So I want to make sure that they get the same training, whether we're on it or not. And I think that'd be up to Andrew to kind of maybe push that through, because obviously he's not going to go anywhere, but the mayor could go, and what, maybe 1 or 2 council seats could change, maybe. So I think that would be a good, something for us to kind of look forward to, you know, if they get a different mayor, we can, you know, could have a whole new thing. I don't know if that'll happen, but, so that's my
I
deal.
didn't hear the answer very well. It kind of cut out when, I think it was Jeff that asked, was this the same training that I would have been part of a couple years ago, or is this different? I'm more than willing to do it and interested, but if it's not different, I don't know if there'd be a point. And so I don't want to cost the city money either.
It is the same company putting on the training, but it is more than likely different training than what happened there. Because this is which is their conference, so it's multiple options. I'm one of you attended like a half day or all day training that was just one item, like the basics of planning and zoning, versus this has multiple. It's like you can do sessions on subdivisions, sessions on comp plan implementation, beyond the basics. There's one on opportunity zones in your community. So I mean, there's lots of different things versus just the. They also do just half-day trainings, which I'm guessing is what you attended a couple of years ago.
And I think that was like my role as a planning commission.
Yep, that sounds good.
Like introductory type.
Yep, my role as a planning commission member is a common one that they do as well, and that's, you don't see that one on here. It's going to be different than what you probably went through.
Maybe considering, as you pointed out, the January, I know my term is up in January, and I think there's probably more than just me, but, and then as you pointed out, it's the mayor decides who he invites or appoints, so we could all be different. In the interest of maybe fiscal responsibility, if the city could maybe purchase 5 seats, but wait to actually, since we have that option of watching them after the 2 days, wait till after January and the dust settles a little bit to take advantage of it. That way you aren't paying to have one of us take it and then we get off in January, it seems.
That's a good point. I would defer to, Darren, maybe Darren can reach out to GPS.
Yes, I will find out how long they're good for to watch.
Yeah.
They say it's good for a month, or only 30 days. But yeah, I can dig into that, find out how long. To let you wait until January.
Be nice if we could take advantage of it, but it's not going to help the city much if 2 of us take it and then we're off in January and the people that take our place don't have the option or the opportunity.
We can certainly do if you do attend, if you want to do a debrief afterwards for the whole commission on what you think items or takeaways from it too, to maybe help with some of that, or bring some materials and stuff like that.
I go back to that same thing. If we do this and we're the same ones, yeah, we need to talk about it as amongst ourselves. Because everybody's going to pick up something different out of it. I think, it's our personality. So I agree 100% with that. Hopefully we can get back to our real meetings sometime in the future.
Anything else on that?
No, I'm good. You guys just let us know what you need and look forward to that future discussion like we were talking about. And I think he's committed to having that discussion too. So however you guys want to reach out to him and have him involved, I think he's open to that. In fact, I know we talked about this a few times.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to the third item on the agenda. Port Authority land rezone, 43 acres of RA proposed to I-2.
All right, so this application is coming from the Port Authority. This is, they don't have an address there, but parcel 71003500176002. This is currently zoned RA, and they're proposing to, or asking to rezone it to industrial 2. And it stated that the circumstances have changed since the original zoning. So this is the written narrative that was provided. This is approximately 42.5 acres of RA property. The court has an intent to purchase on this property with a company specializing in demo and recycling. This obviously can be rezoned from RA to I2. Let's see, they're looking to do, like I said, different things on the property that would all fall under the industrial zone. And this is a legal description of the property. So the notices were sent out, or notices put in the paper on September 16th. Notices were mailed out to all the neighbors within 360 feet on the 16th. That included property that was in the county jurisdiction. As you with that. And we're here tonight. So the purpose of the general I2 district is intended to provide a district which allows general industrial uses which due to their size and nature would not conform in the planned industrial district, which would be the I1. So Minnesota statute calls out rezoning in 462.357, and then our city ordinance in 154.020, where the zoning map may be amended whenever public necessity and convenience and general welfare require an amendment. This is a rezoning that would be going from a residential to a commercial industrial use, which does require a 2/3 vote by council. So anytime you go from residential to a commercial or industrial, it requires that larger than majority vote in order to be approved. And under municipal law, we can't condition rezoning a property on like a conditional use permit or a variance where you can attach conditions. You can't attach them to rezoning. So look background here. Like I said, this property is zoned RA agricultural residence. This area was annexed in 2005, and our RA zone is our default zoning when property is annexed in. The Port Authority purchased this property in 2012. The Port Authority has a buyer for this parcel of land, and they would like to rezone that I2 due to the proposed use. That is a demolition recycling center, and so they are applying for this as part of that process. So we should be reviewing this as an I2 industrial zone, but I know we know what it might be, but we should look at it from all uses within that zone, since rezoning, again, isn't tied to specific use. It's tied to that zone where any use 5 years from now, if that doesn't happen, could be any use that I2 could go into that zone if it's rezoned. So you shouldn't be thinking of it as just one use. You should be thinking about any use that could potentially be brought into an I2 could potentially be on this property. So be thinking about that as before you do that. Again, this is access off of Wyron's Road. I pronounce that properly. There is I2 land immediately to the east, and then there's I1 and I2 to the north, split by the railroad tracks. There's an industrial park to the north that is I1 zone. The land to the northeast is a utility substation, and that is still in RA. And to the south is another industrial park that's also in I2. The property is on the edge of the city limits. The land in Otter Tail County jurisdiction contains farm fields and single-family residential housing. The land immediately to the south of this parcel contains 6 houses that will be touching this parcel. These in here. You see, this red line signifies the city limit line. You can see this area is not within city limits. This way. So here's our zoning map. It's a little bit of yellow there too. The purple is I1. This is the one of the industrial parks. The green is the RA, and that's kind of our default zoning when stuff is annexed in. And then the blue is the I2. You can see there's I2 directly to the north touching this parcel, and to the east touching this parcel as well. and then the road comes up through, and then it ends over here. Here's the proposed findings. Again, this is RA, that was annexed in 2005. There's I-2 to the north and to the east. There is no parcel minimum size in the I-2, so obviously it's that. The parcel is currently cropland, and there's the railroad track to the north of this parcel. Again, you can recommend approval, setting your reasons why, denial, or you can table to more time with your decision. I did receive one comment prior to the meeting tonight from Jesse Dahl. He asked if there'd be any consideration put in to protect the residential property owners that border the south end of the property. Any sort of barrier to obstruct vision and or noise from the planned development activity. Placing this type of business next to existing homes would greatly reduce the quality of life for people living in these homes and greatly reduce the property values at the same time. I did respond to him, letting him know that this is strictly a rezoning, not any sort of conditional use at this time. And I didn't hear back, but I did reply to him, letting him know that this is a rezone request. So we don't have plans for anything at this point in terms of what future development might look like. That's all I have for you right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Can you give us an expanded view of the area so we can get it a little more in context of where it's actually at?
This is the parcel. And so to kind of put it in context, here's the racetrack up here, but it'd be coming access off of this tower. And then coming up on, Yep, yeah. I think this is Short-Tex. And then it goes from tar and it turns into gravel once you get
Speedy's right there too.
there. Does that help?
Yep, thank you.
From a zoning as well. Now we should be able to see what we're talking about. So this is the parcel. So this is the zoning map of this area. Again, you can see the blue is I-2, the purple is the I-1, and the green would be our RA, our residential agriculture zone in that kind of default zoning. You can see that down here as well. There's some industrial on the other side of the road.
And that's I-94 on the left there?
Yes.
Left here.
Okay.
So Clara is here to speak in terms of the Port Authority, if you have any questions. Otherwise,
So is there any other questions from the commission for Claire or Darren? If not, we'll open up the public hearing. Darren, is there anybody online?
there is, I have one phone meeting.
So if anybody would like to speak.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please give me your name and address, please.
Hey, this is Jesse Dahl. I'm the one that emailed you this morning.
Okay.
1702 Wyron's Road. So my property borders this one, and I guess I just wanted to say that, yeah, you had mentioned this morning that, well, this isn't for specific, but it kind of is, but a similar thing. If you zone it industrial 2, then the next thing will be similar to the scrapyard that's wanting to buy the property, correct? I guess we just have, if this gets rezoned and there's industrial right behind us, not against it, I don't think we're going to stop you, but, if there could possibly be some consideration for splitting up that lot or some sort of buffer zone or something, not necessarily rezoning it industrial 2 right behind these houses here, because it's gonna, pretty much I think if that comes in, I'm gonna have to move. And also if that comes in, it's probably gonna take $100,000 off my house. So it's kind of a stressful situation for the property owners out here, in my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Darren, on the line?
I do not see anyone else besides you.
So is there any other discussion with a public hearing?
Is there anyone else that would like to speak from the public?
If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for consideration.
Chair, this is Laura. I agree with the homeowner that some kind of buffer here probably helps maintain our tax base for those residential homes too. By putting it into this zoning, what kind of buffer will that mandate, or will we automatically, they'll be able to do what they're planning on possibly doing with this recycling situation right up to their property line, or will they need a conditional use that we could put conditions on? I understand we can't put conditions on this.
So, if the request is over 5 acres in size, the code requires that there be a conditional use permit for that use. So if that is the case, then yes, there obviously would be conditions you can put on in terms of hours of operation, tree buffer, fencing buffer, litany of things that we feel are needed in order to help ensure the use meets the criteria of the ordinance. So if the use that goes in here does need a conditional use permit, then that could be addressed at that time. If a use goes in here that's permitted, so in front of me, and I can make one really quick. A storage unit, mini storage unit type, that is a permitted use in the I-2 zone. You wouldn't be seeing that from a conditional use standpoint. They would just need to meet the criteria of the ordinance in terms of what's needed for storage units. It'd be like building a house, right, in a residential zone. It would be just a permitted use. But so it depends on what would obviously be going in there and the size in this instance of what goes in there. Yeah, and as you can see, this is the city limit line here. So I'm not sure which one Jesse is, if he's this one or any of these, but yeah, all of these homes in here. He's
He's the third one in, Darren, from the,
Here?
yeah. And he's got a, are you still on, Jesse? Do you hang up?
What's it? Yeah, I am the third one in.
Yeah, you're the third
Third
one.
one from
Plus,
the corner.
plus you own the land directly behind you, like about a 2.5 acre chunk back there you own, so that's kind of a buffer for you also?
Well, that doesn't show up properly on the county map. The neighbors actually own the neighbors to the east own the part behind them.
Yeah, behind
I
them, but
just
you,
own
behind you,
basically
there's,
what's behind me,
there's
go
about-
to the west.
I looked on the map, and there's about a 2-acre, I'm not sure if it's 2 acre, but 1.5 behind your house. You own the biggest part of it behind there. Quite a bit, I think. Your old neighbor,
Correct.
Darren, your old Dan Hansen used to live back out, that's why I know it. And he said that you'd own that chunk back there. But I'm just saying that there's a buffer between you and them, quite a few feet. So it's not, it's not going to be a huge, they're not right in your backyard. But you're also,
Yes, there's a few feet from the house,
Right.
obviously, but it, I don't know. That's our backyard.
the city, you're in Otter Tail County, right? You're not in, you're a township, is that?
Township,
Which one?
Fergus.
Fergus Township, yeah, you're in Fergus Township. So that's why I just wanted to make sure we knew that, too.
Sorry about that. I did not realize that.
Yeah, we still need to be neighborly to it, but I mean, we just got to be careful how we do it, too,
all
so,
the notices mailed out went to these neighbors.
right,
We went into the county GIS. We got
Right.
contacted it. So yes. And again, if it does turn into what what we think might, then obviously we would evaluate and they would, I don't know what the game plan is, everything goes here, or here, or here. I don't know at this point. But
and this is just a zoning meeting anyway, so it's not like we're going to approve everything. There's other things that'll come into place, so.
Annie is on here, it appears. Can she speak a little? I think this is something that we probably need to do personally, but can she speak a little bit to what it's looking like the need is going to be for this area, obviously beyond the one use, or will that possibly take up the whole space? Can she shed some light on kind of what the talk is for this space? Because clearly there's a reason this is coming forward from the group that it's coming forward from.
Absolutely, we're still in the public hearing part, so.
Annie?
Yeah, just answer the question, oh gosh, did I lose you?
No, it's still here.
I hope you're still there, okay. Laura, will you just repeat the question, what's happening with this entire parcel?
Well, right. What interest do you have from people in this parcel? Are we in multiple conversations? Are things happening in the near future, do you think, or is this probably out of ways? Just kind of what the general need is for this space, most likely.
For this space specifically, Clara could probably speak better to it. I can say, generally speaking, we're seeing a big need for industrial space, warehouse space, kind of the more manufacturing, outside storage, kind of globally. That's a lot of the inquiries that we've been getting from businesses for both the Port Authority lots and then also some of the empty buildings. So we've even been having conversations, just generally speaking, with a little bit with city staff on the potential of looking at, like the Sunmart and Kmart buildings, if there could be maybe some rezonings for that type of space. So it's the manufacturing and warehouse where we're seeing the biggest need. I'm just not sure from a public information standpoint what we can share on this particular lot, so Clara would probably be a better person to answer that.
Thanks, Annie. Yeah, so I'm the community development manager, but I'm also the executive director of the Port Authority, and the Port Authority is who owns this property currently. I will say that the reason back in 2005, when the Port Authority looked at purchasing the property, was so that it could be an expansion of industrial uses in the future. There hasn't been a use that's come forward to us at this point until now. That's why you're seeing this request now. So there haven't been uses that have been brought forward that are not industrial for a space like this, and Annie is completely correct. We've heard interest in finding more industrial, larger spaces in town where there could be the potential for warehouse, things like that. And the purchaser who's interested in this site, the idea, even though we're just talking about zoning, I can make some comments based on what I've heard from him specifically toward what they would be interested in for this site. The railroad access is kind of what's driving a lot of this. So the railroad access is up toward the north end of the parcel. So that's where a lot of the action will be taking place early on, is up toward the top of the parcel, and that would leave probably some room for negotiation as to what sorts of conditional uses, I guess you could say, would be put in place toward the bottom to try to protect those homeowners, but yes.
What consideration is, or what part is played in this of the road infrastructure there? If, depending on what type of industrial use could require pretty heavy traffic, large trucks, et cetera, obviously that's going to put a strain on an existing, isn't it a gravel road, you said?
Correct, that is a gravel road at this
Okay.
point. The purchaser is in talks with the engineering department about what that would look like.
Okay, but that would also have an effect on those homeowners, to go from basically a rural country road, gravel road, to one being accessed by heavy equipment continuously. That's going to affect.
So the road that goes up and past the homeowners, I think that one is paved. And then it's the road that is leading up to the property itself that
Oh,
remains
okay, I
gravel.
was thinking it was the Wyman Road was gravel. That's paved?
So it's
Up to there,
Right there.
and then, yeah, so I suppose it would be gravel. The city, where does the right of way access start? Yeah. So that chunk below would not be part of development of that parcel above, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So yeah, access would obviously come off of this is road right away. Anything beyond that would be private road. But right,
So the road that runs east and west there, that goes in front of the access road for those dwellings, that would not be the primary access to this parcel? Okay.
it dead ends on this end.
And I believe that's controlled by the county also.
So you would be coming in off of Tower straight up.
This purchase agreement that's on there, is that subject only to getting it rezoned and then the permits that's needed from the city?
That's
Is
correct.
it a solid purchase agreement?
We're still in negotiations.
I'm sorry.
Did you need me to repeat that? Oh, we're still in negotiations on the purchase agreement.
Are you there, Vern?
I didn't get what you said.
We're still in negotiations on the purchase agreement, but there does need to be rezoning that happens on the site in order for a purchaser to use this as an industrial site.
Okay.
Could you explain the difference in possible usage between an I-1 and an I-2? I don't know if you,
So, I-2 has more, how do I say that? There's more, or it's a little less restrictive in that there's no minimum lot size, and there's also some rules that go into pavement requirements in I-2. Parking versus I-3, it really doesn't require all that. But the uses in I-1 are more, for an example. So it's mostly limited to like wholesaling, manufacturing, and so it's meant to be more of a lighter use. So things like bottling establishments, building materials sales and storage. Cartage and express facilities, so like trailers, dry clean establishments, laundromats, medical and dental labs. some of those things, some of the wholesale business offices, those kind of items. Versus the I-2 has a little bit more of things like freight terminals, hatcheries, garage and sale repair for motor vehicles, highway maintenance shops, lumber yards, manufacturing, processing, and servicing. Much more heavier uses than, say, the I-1. So the intent is to kind of have more of a, the word heavy makes sense, more intense maybe use as you get higher up. So the intent with the industrial park to the north there is all I-1, but I think that's probably some of the only I-1. Most of the town is I-2. The I-1 is this purple, and that's the blue is I-2. As you can see, most of the industrial areas are 2. It is just, this is our only I-1.
And that all belongs to the racetrack, I believe.
Well, a lot of it is racetrack, but some of it is also.
Oh, it is? That's where Vector Windows and all them are too?
Yeah,
Okay. Yep.
Vector, concrete, they're in that as well.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, the Port Authority is asking us to rezone this, and the specific reason for is this ongoing negotiation with a specific intent purchaser. If we were to approve the rezoning, we are locking ourselves into a heavier use area if this rezone, or if this specific opportunity doesn't come to fruition, then we've locked ourselves into that type of usage. Is there any actual reason, will it facilitate the negotiations if we've rezoned it, or can you conduct your negotiations?
That's the question that Vern asked. Negotiations would cease if the site were not able to be rezoned.
Okay.
My gut is that we should move forward with this, but I guess my question would be, maybe I'm not understanding it correctly. I-1 is more restrictive than I-2. Is that accurate?
Yes, in that they're, in the terms of the uses and the intent of I-1 is to be maybe less.
Less industrial, maybe.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
Okay.
yeah.
So if we rezone this to I-1, would they be able to get a conditional use permit to do this use under an I-1 zone?
We wanted in I-2. And
You do want I-2. Okay, I was just trying to figure out a way to kind of find a happy medium here for people, because it seemed like people are hesitant on I-2.
And also, it's obviously directly adjacent to.
Right, I agree with that.
If, versus having something obviously not directly adjacent. So that's always something we want to look for, so we don't spot zones.
Right. I guess I don't know if we're still in the public hearing or not, but if we aren't, I would be willing to make a motion at this point.
Okay, I think we did close the public hearing, no, I think that, so we do have a motion. That's a motion, Laurel?
I'll make if the public hearing's closed. I'm just not sure if the public hearing's
Yeah,
closed.
the public hearing
or not.
was closed, I apologize, Jill, I did close
Okay.
it.
Okay. Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the rezoning from RA to I2, the 43 acre. I believe it's 43 acres.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second. I want to discuss.
Okay, it's been a motion and a second, now is there discussion?
Back in 2012, when we purchased this, the Port Authority purchased, I was the president of the Port Authority at the time. And so the Adams family that owned that sold it to us for industrial expansion. I wanted to kind of relate that that's what it was about. And Gordon Dukovich and I went through this process, and I don't know why it wasn't changed then to, because everything else we bought is from the Adams. So anyway, so that's just kind of to give you a little history when we bought it, and that's what the owner, I can't think of his first name, wanted it for, was industrial use. And he sold to the city for a very generous price so we could expand, because it was probably the last place for us to expand. So just to give you a little history on that, so.
Okay, any other discussion?
I just have just a question specifically in regard to the current homeowners that are on that strip, and I understand. I'm sorry. Thought I turned that off. Specifically, kind of the city, and this is not unusual, finds itself in a position where to grow and to improve, we also are doing things that are going to be less than favorable to current homeowners, and that would be the situation here, I think. We can't stop improving for the sake of 6 people, but we also don't want to throw people under the bus just so that we can grow as a city. So how do we approach that? And I think some sort of requiring some sort of a buffer zone or something around those homeowners would be, I'm sure would be appreciated by the homeowners. We don't want to do something that I think that will definitely drop the value of those properties if we can do something about it. So I don't know where that part comes in. We've already got a motion and so on, but maybe the city already has something in place to address that issue. I don't know.
The conditional use permit would address that. When an application comes forward at that point, that's when you can say, yes, we'll approve this use on these conditions that you protect the homeowners in this way.
So we'll actually have.
I think the other thing we could do is forward to city council who would, or I don't know if it's Port Authority or who enters into the planning commission, or who enters into a purchase agreement and does the official purchase agreement. But can we as a planning commission forward the recommendation that that purchase agreement is contingent on an agreed upon buffer zone on that line of the property line? And I think that that's something that we as a group could recommend to the parties that are making the purchase agreement as a contingency in that purchase agreement or a condition of the purchase agreement.
Well, I'm assuming if this is approved and and that date does happen, they have to come back for a conditional use permit. So at that time, you have the ability to put those conditions in place. Now, whether or not they want to know what they are before they sign a purchase agreement might be another thing.
And that's a question they can ask us.
Yeah, I would suggest, obviously, that's something that Claire can bring back to the land or potential purchaser when that does happen, and provide that, those comments and reiterate them to them and see where that goes.
Just so you know, Laura, this won't go to the council. This will be between the Port Authority and the purchaser. We're just changing the zoning for it, and the Port Authority will have the rule over, not the council, on this property.
Okay, so is there any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. If no further discussion, we'll take roll call.
Jeff?
Yes?
Laurel?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Vern?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Craig? Motion carries.
Okay. Darren, have any upcoming applications?
At this moment in time, I don't have it.
Okay.
What happened to the tabling of the requests by HRA?
Oh, so they withdrew their request.
Oh, they did? Okay.
They are going to review it, and we may see them again, we don't know, but they did formally withdraw
Okay.
the variance at this time.
Okay.
I guess my question is, in the R4 zone, They called that, I believe it was a 20-unit apartment building, but really the whole lower level was a facility to take care of the folks up above. It was more of a rehab center than it was an apartment building, in my view. Does that fit into R4?
That's probably more of a discussion than we have time for right now, Vernon. I would love to have a discussion with you. Certainly give me a call, and we can go through all that if you wish, and how that would all fit in there.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to new business.
Well, we already tackled new business.
Okay, old business?
I guess I would just reiterate that. Let me know if you have any interest in attending this. I will do some research on how long you have to listen to it afterwards.
Once you find that out, you want to just send out an email to all of us, and then we can reply with yes, no, or whatever.
I can work with Jill on that.
Okay.
Then the last thing I do have is I wanted to circle back in that, if you remember a couple of months ago, we talked about some potential ordinance updates. As of right now, I don't have anything for next month. Now, something could come in. I don't recall when the deadline is. It's this Friday, but again, I don't have anything at the moment. I think it might be a great time to circle back to this. And if, obviously we can get either everyone that's comfortable here or still attending online, but if we want to get everybody in the room, we can make sure we're spaced out accordingly. And go through some of these items that we had started talking about several months ago in the ordinance, specifically around accessory buildings, some of the fencing and setbacks and those kind of things, or any other item you want to address in the ordinance.
Can we set that date as a work session instead of an official meeting, where it can be kind of a brainstorming session for where we want to go with directions on those things, so it's a little less formal and we can have more conversation around things?
Well, as of right now, I don't have anything for the agenda for next month at this time.
So I'm just wondering, just some dialogue that's maybe a little less formal than a meeting, just more of a work session, might be a productive way to start that process.
So, I guess, what do you envision being different?
Well, if we have a meeting, normal meeting, we do this, do you have to notify the public?
Yep, because if we have more than 3 people.
Okay.
If we have 3 people here, we have to have a quorum.
Right. So I don't know if a work session is any different than us meeting like we normally do, right?
Right.
Okay.
Let's just work it out so we get everybody in the room and try to get everybody here to discuss everything. That's what I'd like to see.
Yep.
And
Laurel, are you thinking that with this work session that it would not be a public hearing?
No, I think it can be public. I think we need to come in kind of with an open slate and figure out where everybody sitting around the table is thinking priorities are, and not come in with too many preconceived notions of which direction we're going on things, so we can have some open and honest conversation here about where priorities are. That's more what I'm coming in from. I don't really necessarily think that we should come out of that meeting with, here are the 3 things we're going to vote on the next meeting. I think we need to look at a broader paintbrush than that.
Absolutely. No, my intent would be to, the whole book is open in terms of what we can be looking at. So, what we can do, if we don't have any other items, no public hearings or anything like that, I don't envision there being a lot of people wanting to come in to see us.
Right.
So we can certainly fit all out of you, maybe a few over in the corner and utilize the whole room. We don't have a lot of other people attending, to get everybody in one room and safely. And then, have that. I'm all for exactly what you said, Laurel, where we have, the whole book is open to, and we can just have an open discussion. That can be the only thing we do for the meeting. If it's an hour of time, we want to say we're going to do this for an hour, have a conversation, and then we're done, and then we'll go on to next month. And there doesn't need to be any decisions made at the meeting. That sounds good to me.
I would like to see a 2-hour. I mean, I think just everybody put in their heads it's going to be a couple-hour meeting. If we get done sooner than that, because when you walk in the door, we know we're going to be here for 2 hours, so we can plan for it.
Yep.
Everybody's busy in schedules, and And so I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay, so let's plan on that if there's no other agenda items.
What's the date of that meeting?
It'll be October 26th.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you planning to come with some ideas? That's a big book, so are you planning on coming with some kind of direction where you'd like to see us start?
So I can resend out what I sent, July maybe? With a few things that I just highlighted from over the years of some things around accessory structures, adding some uses in the zone, specifically around the B3. If you remember, a lot of our conversation was, for a while there, was getting uses called out in some of those zones that weren't there, or get the tattoo or the studio and different things. So I can re-email this back out to everybody.
That'd be great.
These are some of just the starting points, but by no means is this everything or the only thing. We can certainly talk about.
I got one question too. When we decide to change this, when it goes to the council, I know they changed the charter. It has to be unanimous. It has to be every council member's got to be on board. Is that the same thing with this? Do you have any idea, or could you check that out and let us know?
The ordinance?
Ordinance. We change the ordinances, rewrite them, and of course the council gets the final vote. Is it a vote of 8-0, or can it be just a majority?
Also the charter.
Huh?
I'll have to look at the charter. I don't know that answer.
Yeah, I know the charter's got to be 8. It's got to be unanimous. There's no, because we went through that about 6 years ago, and so I just like to know that too, because then when you're going into this, then you got to work with the council, because otherwise you could just be wasting your time.
Right.
So.
Okay.
It would be nice, I think, if, for instance, there's got to be redundancies in that book. So if there's, I think, one of the things that I've heard whenever this has come up for discussion, or that we're going to tackle this at some point, is to get rid of some redundancies and to consolidate, make things a little more understandable. And so it would be nice if we had some way of knowing where those redundancies are, so we know where to start. Same way, if there's some ordinances, codes that tend to consistently be misunderstood by builders or homeowners that are looking for improvements or so on, it'd be nice to know if we kind of have an idea where to start.
I would suggest looking at the B1 through B4, B1, B2, B3 zones. B3 is mostly our downtown. B2 is our service district, so some of those.
I would agree with you, Darren. I'll make a motion that our next meeting focuses on B1 through B3 zoning, and that we allocate 2 hours to try and talk about that, unless another item comes forward we need to add to our agenda.
I'd second that.
Okay.
So I would suggest looking at the permitted uses, conditional uses. Are we missing anything? Should we remove things? Are there redundancies in there? And then also just the chapter themselves then will go into, minimum lot size, height requirements, what's allowed, what's not. So yeah, that will shrink this book a lot if you're just looking at 3 zones. So that might help.
I don't know if we need to actually vote on that particular
Right.
motion.
Yeah,
That's what we'll do, and we'll move forward on that.
Unanimous consent.
I think there's unanimous consent on that, so.
Sure.
Anything else? Otherwise,
I think that helps us all prepare too. We know where to start in the big book, and it's not that way everyone's coming thinking on the same page kind of thing. I think that will help everybody.
right? Okay. Want to adjourn?
Adjourn. Motion.
We'll adjourn. Thanks, everybody.